Good Morning Liberty.
Well, what is up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is another fantastic episode of Good Morning Liberty. My name is Nate Thurston. Across from me is Mr. Charles Chuck Thompson, coming at you on a beautiful day here in Nashville, Tennessee. How's it going today, Chuck?
I don't know, man. The chat's all about a full send. That's it.
The chat wants war right now. That's what they want. We've been having a good time hanging out with the people in the Fed Haters Club. That's joingml.com if you want to join. It's still only $7 a month, and since it's made in America, the tariffs aren't going to push that price up any. Yeah. And so you can be solid at $7 right now for GML. The only thing that's going to push that up is just going to be general inflation overall. See, I buy almost everything from China, so my life's going to get a lot more expensive, and we're going to have to raise the price of the Fed Haters Club. Yeah. And that's how everything is affected by tariffs.
Because you don't want to remove like that one pallet of cash from the corner of your bed.
No, I want that.
Then
you're like that. It's keeping it propped up. Keeping it propped up on the right side
would be, off kilter.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep that thing level.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah. Here I said we weren't just going to talk about tariffs today, and we're already talking about tariffs right at the beginning of the episode. But we talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of meaning every single day of the week, and we want to. Go to joingml.com, join the Fed Haters Club, interact with us on X at Good AM Liberty, leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast app, tell a friend, a family member, and your friends' children that they should listen to Good Morning Liberty every single day of the week when they want to.
Everything around life, liberty, and pursuit of meaning has to do with economic truths.
Yeah.
Which is why economics is so important.
Economics is that's our thing. That's what we care the most about.
If you are not free, if you don't have access to a decent life, then how in the world could you even pursue life, liberty, or meaning?
It's pretty difficult to do, man.
Yeah.
Pretty difficult. I wanted to go over a few of the other news items. There are other things that have happened over the last couple days. They haven't been like groundbreaking, monumental, and they're not worldwide economy shifting bits of news like the tariff conversation has been. That's why we've been sticking on that. But just to breeze over a few things. So on Monday night, I believe the Supreme Court, New York Times says, Supreme Court clears way for Venezuelan deportations to resume for now. So that's that Alien Enemies Act, deportations. Now, we're not going to go into super detail on this, but I did want to say the Trump administration has touted this as a really, really big win for them. They were right that Justice Boasberg was wrong to try and shut them down, issuing a temporary restraining order. They were kind of right about that part. Essentially, the Supreme Court said that was filed in the wrong court. But the Supreme Court also said, so they said these things had to be filed in Texas, in the area where the immigrants or aliens or whatever are being held.
They basically ruled that you don't have jurisdiction.
That's what they ruled. So they did not rule that the use of the Alien Enemies Act is constitutional, that this is the right time to use it, that they can do that. All they ruled was this is not the proper court. Justice Boasberg did not have jurisdiction over this. It has to go to a Texas court, and now the ACLU is already filed in Texas, and so we're going to see what those judges say. But then on top of that,
that's just like, I love the technicalities.
It's all
Supreme
technicalities.
Court's like, oh yeah, we can shut this down because technicality.
Yeah, and now we're going to see.
You filed it wrong.
Yeah, it's just wrong, improper filing.
Yeah.
That's all it was. And the other thing is that the Trump camp is not talking about all that much is that in a 9-0 decision, they said that they did have the right to go to an immigration court and have due process. And so they can't just round the people up with a flight manifest and stick them on a plane and send them to prison. They do still have to go through the proper court proceedings, meaning the Supreme Court did just rule that these aliens, which are real, because they're aliens and they're enemies and we're acting, but they ruled that they do have a right to due process. And that's not something that I've seen a lot of Republicans talk about because that's something people were arguing against so much. But this is wrapped up. It's kind of a loss wrapped up on a win for them, but we'll see what the Texas judge ends up saying because that's already been filed down there in Tejas. Another thing the Supreme Court ruled on, you might remember that the Trump administration was terminating probationary federal workers. And here's a big win for the administration. The Supreme Court is allowing Trump to terminate 16,000 of those probationary federal workers. It was one of those funny things where you saw a federal judge ruled that the Trump administration had to rehire these people that they had fired, which is the whole thing is ridiculous. I do think that they should be able to fire people.
Yeah.
Clearly, they should be able to fire people.
Yes.
But also this win, all they ruled was that the people who brought this suit to court don't have standing. That's all they ruled. They did not rule that it is, in fact, constitutional and proper for the administration, that the administration has the power to fire all these people. They just said that the unions who brought this suit don't have standing, even though the unions said that they were harmed by this.
Or they represent the folks
They
who are
represent
harmed.
people who are harmed, basically claiming it's going to, harm all the services that the government is trying to provide to people. And they're like, yeah, you guys don't have standing for this. So there's other court cases also going on, like one in Maryland that we don't really have a decision on right now. So it appears to be a win right now. That's good. I want these people to be fired. I want like at least half of them to be fired. Like of all the workers to be actually like 3/4.
I was going to say
like
at least
minimum.
half.
I think we start there and then we go on from that point.
Then we still see who needs a job. Most of them probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, probably don't need to do that.
We could probably get there, though, by eliminating half the departments.
Yeah.
Start by eliminating half the departments that don't need to exist, and then by default, half the workers
Most
go.
people aren't going to be there anymore.
And then we'll start evaluating the leftover departments and see whether they're necessary. And I would imagine half of those, which gets to our 3/4 number.
How ridiculous is the idea that you can... It's not like you see people bring the administration to court if they were to hire 16,000 people. No one's going to sue them for that. Couldn't I claim that that's causing damages or causing harm, that they're hiring those people? When do you ever see that? I don't see that. But when you go to fire the people,
financial
like,
harm.
Those people have a right to that job.
You can't afford eggs, but they're hiring 16,000 people.
Financial harm here.
Yes.
They're using my money to pay those people. Of course I can claim harm here. But you never really see that kind of thing. It always defers to the government should get bigger. When it tries to get smaller, well, there's issues with that, And then here's a bad one. It's not like they're drawing up plans. I haven't gotten any text messages from Pete Hegseth on this or anything. So I don't think they're working on plans right now. We'll see if they text any reporters. But the Trump administration is weighing drone strikes on Mexican cartels.
God.
Can we just please... Here's why some of this stuff is important, and it's why we're going to talk about tariffs again, and it's why we're talking about this right now. Let me tell you what's important. The Trump administration, specifically Donald Trump himself, is one of the most responsive politicians to social media opinion, the opinions of his MAGA voter base, and how things make him look. He's one of the most responsive people to that, I think, that we've seen in a while. And if he sees that there is a clear opposition to this from many of the people who voted for him, then maybe, just maybe, the U.S. military won't be drone bombing places in Mexico.
Right.
Okay.
Or on our border, let's say.
God.
Or what if it takes place in the United States? The cartel comes across the border and they just...
I wouldn't put it past them.
Put
honestly.
A hole in Texas.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I really wouldn't put it past them. Then it'd be like, oh yeah, those people were gang members. Trust us.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's. I hope we don't get to that. I'm not a fan of it. I'm just.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
Well, to aid in this, Trump has announced. I was going to your next story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The military.
Yeah, to aid in these
Military,
Mexican cartel drone bombings, we're making sure we're going to do $1 trillion military budget.
Yeah.
Here's one of the problems. Okay, especially for libertarians that voted for Trump, and I think a lot of people who voted for Trump, based on what he's said his whole life about being anti-war, about someone who is anti-war, didn't start any new wars in his first term. He obviously continued some drone bombing that was already taking place. But man, it really seems like he's kind of flipped script a bit. Now, I will say in his first term, he did talk about rebuilding the military and spending more money on the military. That did happen. So he's kind of carrying that same tune.
Yeah. Peace through strength. That's the idea.
But to imagine that we can't just make the military more efficient through Doge or other means, like there's plenty of money there.
Oh.
And we can just make him more efficient and still beef up the military, by the way.
They're working on making it more efficient. And this is another really funny part. I see the news coming through right now. What do we got here? 125%, you said, for China. From China or from U.S.? What are we talking about? Sorry, we're getting news breaking from the Fed Haters Club. Oh, we just moved up to 125%. Awesome.
The market's going nuts.
Which way? Which way nuts? Oh, did they announce a pause? I missed that part.
90-day pause.
Yeah, there it goes. Up.
It's going up.
I like it when it's up.
Up 6.5%.
I'm not saying this is the bottom, but and this is not financial advice, but I bought S&P 2 days ago, and I bought more this morning. Not saying it's a bottom, but we hit a really big trend line. It's so crazy how this happens at that trend line.
And it's a good price point. It's a whole
I'm
dollar.
telling you right now.
You're at $500.
Trend lines
or
and
$5,000.
Trend lines and support and resistance levels are like predictors of the future. It's like you could tell someone, I could tell you there's going to be major news on this today because something has to move us off of this trend line. It's like they know somehow. It's so crazy. So crazy how that works.
Up almost over 7% and gaining.
Woo! Okay. While we're talking about the market right now, I do have to say now all the people on the right are going to be driving me insane today. They're going to be driving me nuts because
we're going to see the wall of green.
I know we have weeks, and since February 19th, it's been mostly down days in the market, and we go down over 20% in the market. And then a couple days ago, we have one up day where we closed up a couple percent on the market. And then all of them were posting like, oh, I thought this was a recession. I thought the market was crashing. Guys, don't be freaking retarded when it comes to this. It's still down 16%. All right. You just have one green day after it moved down an extra 10% a few days before that. Don't be idiots.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow,
NASDAQ up over 8%.
Yeah. How about that? How
Look
about
at
that? Tesla's up right now too. Okay. And Apple's up 10.6%.
Nvidia.
Okay, we'll get to that here in a bit. Are we for sure that this 90-day pause news is not fake news? Because it was fake the other day. Does that mean it wasn't fake the other day? They just didn't want it released yet, and that's what they were mad about.
So it's not fake. It
So
was
it
fake,
wasn't
but now
fake?
it's not fake.
Man,
Yeah.
how about that? Crypto up a little bit too. I've been dollar cost averaging in the Bitcoin ever since it hit its peak.
Yeah.
So, I'm feeling pretty good about that. All right. Anyhow, what were we talking about before? Oh, the military.
Yes.
Let's finish up the military talk before we get over to the market and all that stuff.
I bet Boeing and Raytheon and stuff are up too after this announcement.
So we are going to be making things more efficient. And here's how. You remember that news story about how Trump had directed Pete Hegseth had directed people in the military to get ready for 8% cuts year after year. They're going to cut 8% and end up cutting like 40% of the budget or so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's got details on that. So what they're going to do is they're going to take that 8%.
They're not going to cut it.
They're not going to cut it. They're just going to spend it on better things.
Yes.
So I wanted to play that real quick.
So rather than $1,200 coffee cups, we're going to get the $600 coffee cups.
Yeah.
And then we're going to
more
retool
efficient.
the other $600 into, new and improved pencils that we need so we can write our orders better.
Yeah.
So that the military, so our leaders can better, read the legibility of these
they
pencils.
can read the legibility. Yeah.
Yes.
You want to be able to read legibility.
So we're not cutting the $1,200 per coffee cup. We're just,
they're going to target 8% of the budget every year to try and find a better way to spend that money.
Yeah.
And that's their 8% cut. Here's the news. Pete Hegseth Pistol Pete posted this out the other day about the first coming soon. Now, this is exciting news. Coming soon. The first $1 trillion Department of Defense budget. Let's listen to what that sounded like. Of course, it's no coincidence. Who's sitting next to Trump?
Netanyahu.
Benjamin Netanyahu himself. My God.
But despite that, we have a tremendous military. That was a very small portion because we rebuilt the military during my first term, and we have great things happening with our military. We also essentially.
By the way, just before I played it, you have to believe that our military was literally crumbling circa 2016, and then while he was in office, they spent the right money properly, and they rebuilt our military during that. And then when he left office, even though we kept spending the same amount of money, the military crumbled again magically while Biden was in
F-16s
office.
were falling out of the sky.
And now we're going to rebuild the military.
Yeah, with F-47s.
We approved a budget which is in the facility. You'll like to hear this, of $1 trillion, $1 trillion.
I like how he talks to Netanyahu.
Nobody's seen anything.
You're going to want to hear
We
this.
have to build our military.
Because most of it's going to you.
Because, yeah.
We're very cost conscious, but the military is something that we have to build, and we have to be strong because you got a lot of bad forces out there now. So we're going to be approving a budget, and I'm proud to say, actually, the biggest one we've ever done for the military. We're cutting other things that were under Doge, but under a lot of other. When you look at a woman getting $2 billion for environmental, and it had nothing to do with environmental, and they had $100 in the bank, and they give her $2 billion. Many of those cases, all that stuff is going to be cut.
He's proud.
All that stuff's going to be cut, not cut.
Yeah.
It's going to be retooled.
It's like, for instance, here's this $2 billion, and so we're going to spend $100 billion
Also,
more over here.
you have to read what Pete Hegseth said there because I think this is so important. Imagine, a private company doing something like this, and I think what he said at the very end is so important. He said, P.S. We intend to spend every taxpayer dollar wisely on lethality and readiness.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, we guarantee.
That's true.
We guarantee we're going to spend every tax dollar. We intend to do it. So if we don't, it wasn't our intention.
It is our intention to spend the money wisely.
Criminals, man.
Thank you.
God,
that's a nice catch. That is clever wording.
Like imagine, soliciting a company for services, and you're like, and then rather than giving you a guarantee, they're like, well, we intend.
Well, imagine going to a restaurant. They're like, oh, we intend to give you good food today when you order it. And I'm like,
we intend to give you a fresh burger, but if it doesn't happen, oops.
Oh my God. And so of course we have to pull up the other.
But a lot of people are going to buy that. It's like, oh well. Yeah, they're increasing the spending, but they promised this time it's going to be spent wisely.
Yeah.
Until what? Until who wins 4 years from now? And then what? It's going to be spent unwisely?
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be able to roll back the budget. And that's the thing most Americans don't understand. You're never going to be able to roll back the budget. All of this, I'm feeling kind of black-pilled today, but I'm starting to dwindle on all the hope.
Yeah,
we had
was it my Chris Farley meme that I posted that made
I
you
haven't
dwindle
seen that
on that?
yet,
Oh,
actually.
you haven't?
What I'm basing that off of is that I think it was just a month or two ago I was going on a rant about how good this is going and how amazing it is just that we're bringing light.
Oh, we had a really big post
issues.
Owning all of those lefty libertarians who didn't support Trump. Really big post about
Some
all the
people
great
in the chat
things.
are even more optimistic now. For what?
I mean, okay, I guess have to say, because a lot of people post this when we post these kind of things. I do still believe this is better than what we would have gone through if Kamala Harris would have become the president. Mm-hmm. I do think that there was a fork in the road somehow that we had to take.
That's what the chat's saying too.
Yeah,
it's better than Harris.
It is better than Harris. I do agree with that. And it doesn't mean that we're going to agree with everything that Trump does. I still think that we are far and above the place that we would have been in as far as government power and taxation and spending. I mean, we are very far away from what Doge wanted to cut and all of that. But at least we're talking about cutting some of these programs and cutting some of the departments and all of the, USAID and the Department of Education and stuff like that. Guys, we would have spent an extra $1 trillion easily per year if all the Democrats would have swept and won in that election. We're fighting over whether or not they're cutting enough or if they keep the budget the same. We're blackpilling about that, okay? We've made the argument several times that actually to get rid of the deficit, you could just keep spending the same for several years. And eventually our theft will catch up with that amount because our GDP would grow. Now, I'm not happy that you keep the spending the same, but that is a hell of a lot better than what the increases in spending were clearly going to be if Democrats would have swept and won everything in that election. So, yes, it is clearly better.
But the problem is, are they going to actually continue? Because the increases are baked in.
Yeah.
They're always baked in. So if
I'm talking about extra like new bills, the big increase, like here's a new $1 trillion Build Back Better, Green New Deal, some kind of whatever it is they want to call it, new bills like that. And we've shut off a lot of illegal immigration, like what Bailey just said. I think that there are a lot of dangerous gang members in the U.S., and I would prefer them to not be here. That's true as well. This is the Chris Farley meme I was talking about, by the way. It's from the SNL skit, and it says, remember when you were going to end all the wars and cut the military budget in half, and you're going to lower prices for everyone, and Doge was going to cut $2 trillion from the budget, and you were going to get rid of the income tax and release the Epstein files?
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it's a good meme.
And yeah, good point. We do have the Gulf of America. And
Ross is out of prison.
Ross is out.
Again, obviously it's better for the two choices that we had. I'm not saying it wasn't better, but what I am saying is that we had all of this momentum. We were I mean, we were going to cut $2 trillion out of the budget. Trump said from the Oval Office, like they were going to cut spending, and now all of a sudden, here the only thing I'm saying is they're starting to retool the words. Like we're going to repurpose.
We're going to spend it better.
We're going to spend it better.
It's
we're
actually
reallocate.
It's actually a cut because we're going to spend it better.
Yes. And this woman's not going to get a $2 billion. We're going to send that $2 billion over to the military because they're not helping their buddies out at all.
We're literally going to explode the $2 billion instead.
Yes.
That's going to be way better. We're going to just light it on fire quickly, and kids are going to die. The thing that really burns me up about this is here's Trump just a couple months ago talking about cutting the military budget by 50%. And he's proud to announce that he's asking for the first ever $1 trillion military budget. 2 months later, after saying that he wants to cut it by 50%.
From the Oval Office.
And he thinks that we can do it. He's proud that we're going to have the first ever $1 trillion military budget.
Did John Bolton make it back in the administration or something?
The problem is this stuff it creeps in. It comes at you from all directions, There's always a boogeyman that you got to prepare for. I see, China is making advances in the West. Their military forces are getting closer, and because of the trade war, maybe they're going to do something with Taiwan, so we're going to have to do that. And Iran's getting closer to a nuke. Don't you know they're only 5 years away from a nuke, Charlie?
And those Houthis are real trouble for the Europeans.
The Houthis are trouble. Blowfish are trouble. All of them. They're real bad. Here's Trump saying
One
that.
of the first meetings I want to have is with President Xi of China, President Putin of Russia, and I want to say, let's cut our military budget in half. And we can do that. And I think we'll be able to do it.
That's great. That's great.
I guess those meetings didn't go well.
No, they wouldn't pick up the phone on that meeting.
Yeah.
No, they did not want to have that meeting at all. Okay, so now we are going to talk about tariffs, but I don't have the latest news pulled up on the tariffs, and that's the problem. right now. While I'm looking for the best news,
According to the chat, it looks like 125% increase on China is happening, or up.
125.
They're going to 125%, and there's a 90-day pause on all other tariffs. So now it's only against China.
Trump announces pause, lowered tariffs for all countries but China. Let's see here. President Donald Trump on Wednesday raised tariffs on imports from China to 125%.
25%.
And that's effectively ending trade with China.
Yeah.
Like that, it's not going to be
they're getting close to that
cost-effective
400% number
it,
that Kevin O'Leary and some
we'll
other
play
folks
that. I
want.
got the clip pulled up.
Yeah.
125% while simultaneously pausing and lowering taxes on goods from other nations hours after U.S. bond markets descended into turmoil and raised fears of a broader financial meltdown. I did see all the talk about the bond markets last night. It was looking real bad. One of the talking points was that they wanted to lower the interest rates on everything, and it was actually starting to look really bad. It moved up pretty quickly. Trump's midday post on Truth Social said the higher China tariff would take place immediately. He said that dozens of other countries have been involved in negotiations and would see their levies paused or lowered to 10%, also effective immediately. U.S. stock markets soared on the news. China's raised tariffs on U.S. imports to 84% overnight, retaliating for U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods that kicked in at midnight. We know that they went to 104%, and that 104% only lasted about 12 hours, and they moved up to 125%.
Effective immediately.
Okay. So let me just say the good parts of this. If they're lowering tariff rates, now I haven't seen what levels they're going down to. They said
like
down to
10%.
10%.
Either paused or lowered.
Dozens of other countries have been involved in negotiations and would see their levies paused or lowered to 10%, also effective immediately. So I guess the pause is 90 day. I haven't seen 90 day mentioned in this article yet. Some of these things I disagree with so much because we're doing 10%. They set like a floor, a minimum of 10%. And Australia is a good example. We have a trade surplus with Australia, and we have a free trade agreement with Australia, and we still put a 10% tariff on them. That doesn't make any sense. There are countries that we have a trade deficit with because, say, we buy coffee from them or tea from them. I was talking to Charlie about this earlier. We can't do our own coffee and tea. We just can't
Except for
do
Hawaii.
it, except for in Hawaii, which is probably the most expensive state to do things in.
Yeah.
Did we just lose camera?
No.
No? Okay. Well,
I still see it.
I lost it. Oh, that's weird.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Still streaming.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good news. Anyhow, so there are places, there's no reason to put a tariff, say, on Brazil or Costa Rica or something like that, wherever. I don't know where we get it. Freaking Dominican is a good one too, because we have a trade deficit
Peru.
with them because they're growing things that we can't grow.
Mm-hmm.
We want those things. Like that doesn't make any sense at all.
We don't really have the climate.
Plus, I drink a lot of coffee. I drink so much coffee, and I need that.
You
to
need your
not get more
Starbucks to stay the
expensive.
same.
I need Starbucks to stay at the same price, please. I can't afford any more. It's like $9 now for a bag of coffee. You know.
Where are you getting it for $9? I feel like it's like 12.
Kroger's $9 for like a regular bag, not like the bigger size bag,
okay.
like a regular size bag of coffee.
Mm.
Okay, so we got that news right now. Hey,
You're like, I drink a bag of coffee a day.
I drink a full pot of coffee every day. I make a 12-cup pot of coffee every day, and then I drink that entire thing normally before noon, and I don't know if that's a lot of coffee, but it's a lot of coffee. It seems like. Okay, when it comes to China, I think that China overall, we have the most arguments we can make about trying to fix our trade situation because sure, they pull a lot of dirty tricks. And I'm going to play a clip from Kevin O'Leary saying we need to do 400% tariffs on China. I just told Charlie this morning, if he were just doing China, like, I'm still not fully on board with that, but at least you could make some easier cases for it just being China and not all these countries that we just happen to have a trade deficit with because we need their stuff or people that are our allies and stuff that you're just going to end up pushing into the arms of China if you're putting a bunch of tariffs on them, you know. And so,
Yeah.
did you go liar, liar when I said that?
Yeah,
okay,
or 7
that's
other
what I thought,
countries.
so. Yeah. 7.
Whatever.
I figured that's where you went when I said that. Here's this clip from Kevin O'Leary. Before I play that, just on the point I was just making, I posted this out earlier, and it's, you know, just a dismal performance of a tweet so far, but whatever. We got to make sure we stick to some libertarian basics, because we get so busy talking about criticizing and talking about the things going on in the news that we forget to talk like libertarians every once in a while. And this is why I have such a big problem with it. It's not even because tariffs are going to increase prices. It's not even because it's bad for trade. Everything that we talk about comes down to our rights as human beings who own ourselves to make our own decisions, absent from government control. That's what it really all comes down to. And we can make the argument that it's bad for the economy, or it's bad for businesses, it's bad for prices, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, who has the right to tell you that you can't buy something from someone else? And that's what we're really talking about. I said the basis of the tariff argument is whether or not you have the right to buy the products that you want to buy without getting punished by the government for doing so. That is what we're really talking about.
Well, they're not saying you don't have a right to buy it, Nate. They're just...
Well, without getting punished by the government for doing
Yeah,
so.
there you go.
That's why I added that at the end. So it's like, oh, you can still buy it. You know,
Yeah.
Sure you can. Sure you can still buy it. But they're going to punish you for it. Here's what Kevin O'Leary had to say about China. You guys in the chat, let me know what you think.
That tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it and sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that
I
look
want
like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. This is not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on Earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on Earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
Well,
I'm
hold
not
on
talking
a
about
second,
tariffs
Kevin.
on
Well,
60
I hear you, but hold on. If we're talking about people, the average consumer, not necessarily the head honchos of businesses all across the globe, can they withstand the pressure of that sort of tax on the goods?
It's short-lived. There will be
But what's your timeline compared to, you don't know the average American's timeline, what they can actually survive. There's people right now who can't survive
400% tomorrow morning, cheese on an airplane to Washington to cut a deal.
All right. There are some things he says in that I will actually agree with. Now, I still don't, I'm never going to like taxes, but we are on the side of libertarianism that does believe in intellectual property rights. And I know that that's something that libertarians are split on as well. But
abortion and IP.
Abortion, immigration,
and IP.
IP is like an annoying autistic one that they talk about, you know. But that's one of the big ones. And so they do technically steal a lot of IP and make Chinese knockoffs of things that we have IP protections for. And so even when he did the tariffs the first time around, I'm like, okay, well, maybe they should do something to punish them or to stop them from even selling those knockoffs that we have IP protections for the companies for.
Yeah.
And so you put the tariffs on those products specifically, not blanket tariffs on everything. they'll talk about, oh, China's got tariffs of 100, 150%.
And you negotiate with your other partners to put tariffs on those products so that China can't sell them anywhere.
Yeah.
Or sell them hardly anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be a more strategic place to do that. I've always entered. So, yesterday I entered some nuance in this conversation, and I think this is more so what our chat is talking about. I think it's what Trump is talking about. It's what Kevin O'Leary is talking about, is that China is a big problem and that we need to crush them and get them to the negotiating table. And it's not going to work until businesses start leaving. I think I heard Apple's already moving to India, even though that's not American. They're not moving.
And we still put a lot of tariffs on India.
Well, now it's only down to 10%.
That's true.
Apparently.
Maybe it's down to 10.
So, but maybe more American friendly. I don't know. So, not knowing what the answer is, this could work. This is what I said before. I'm willing to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This could be
it absolutely could work.
This could be a complete tactic to get people to move in the direction that Trump and the American economy want people to move in, so that we can safeguard, let's say, our economy for years to come. That's possible. It's absolutely possible. I just default to Nate's point. I default on allowing people to be free. And there are ways in which we can make business much more advantageous to do in the United States to where they wouldn't do it in China.
Mm-hmm.
And then you solve a lot of problems.
I wish that's where they would have
eliminating
started.
taxes, deregulation.
Yeah.
It's multifaceted, and there are plenty of ways we can do it without strong arming. You learn in negotiation, it's best not to try to strong arm someone who's got hostages. Okay. Like, you want to lead with empathy and understanding, and there are ways to negotiate to where you make them make the decision that your position's better.
Well, let me ask you this.
That's how you win in the realm of ideas.
What do you think is better from a libertarian perspective? It's mostly a rhetorical question, but super high tariffs to try and get production here in the United States, or a deal that says if you make products in the United States and hire American workers and you're making products here, no corporate income tax. No income tax. No taxes.
Later.
And we're going to sign a 30-year deal with your company that is ironclad, that no judge, no law can prevent, that we are going to give you no income taxes for 30 years while you are here operating on American soil. Why didn't we just do that? You don't have to raise people's prices to get businesses to come here. We would have to set limitations on how many businesses could come to America
One per
if we
state.
did that. Okay? And our GDP would explode. The government would actually
The market would explode.
The government would take in more money after that, because they would actually be getting all those payroll taxes and everything from all the jobs that are out there. The businesses would have to pay a lot, because the biggest restriction on them would be finding enough workers to work at all the new businesses that there are in America after that. That's how you fix our trade problem. You don't tax people. Why don't we do that?
Because the Libertarian's not in office.
The problem,
That's why.
I'll tell you why we don't do that. The problem we don't do that is because, on one hand, the American people will say that tariffs are bad and they're going to raise prices. I mean, you got the most ardent leftist socialists out there talking about how taxing these corporations is bad.
Maybe that's what Trump's doing. This whole thing's a troll. Just to get the leftists and communists to switch their positions.
But if instead of doing the tariffs, if you said, why don't we just not tax the corporations? They'd be like, no, we got to tax those corporations. Screw those corporations.
Right. They would flip to the total other side. Right now, taxes are bad. Okay. But that would be anything you could do to make it more advantageous to do business in the United States would fix so many trade deficits.
Yeah.
That's just that
and it would be the freest thing possible. We have free
also,
trade.
It's the only moral thing to do.
That's
by
actually
the way.
the most moral option.
So we talk about all this stuff like, oh, okay, well, it might work out, and the ends justify the means, and blah 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 blah, without even discussing what's actually moral.
Mm-hmm.
The moral thing to do is to allow people to be free. Stop stealing from them. Stop artificially changing everything. Do you know what the stock market would look like If you instituted Nate's plan when he
That'd be
runs for
really good.
president
It'd be really good.
in 2028,
Let me tell you what.
it'd be ridiculous. And then it's moral. And then there's no strong arming or crushing people's heads or whatever the case is.
Crushing their heads against the wall
Yeah.
or whatever O'Leary was saying. Now, that's the way to go. But unfortunately, as some people said in the chat, that it's about control. Taxation gives you the ability to control people. When you set this taxation level, you can raise it or lower it, and you can control people by offering to raise or lower that tax and get them to do what you want them to do.
It's always looming in the back of their mind.
It's like collecting money from the people of the states, and then you say, "Oh, we'll give that money back to the states as long as you do what we want you to do, states."
Same thing the
You know?
mafia did in New York.
Yeah, it is the mafia.
Yeah.
It's a mafia with $1 trillion military.
Yeah. They got some skull crushers, a lot different skull crushing these days than what the mob had back in New York in the 40s and 50s.
Well, that was fun. Let's get out of here on a high note.
All right, y'all. Well, if you enjoyed today's episode, please share the show with a friend, a family member, or foe. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go to GodHatesFeds.com or joingml.com. Be part of the Fed Haters Club. Chat was going off today.
Yeah, it's fun time.
They're all behind Trump and Kevin O'Leary, it seems. There's a few that
and they're going to
that
back
aren't.
my presidential race, I'm sure, too.
Yeah. And then a few, that like Nate's plan. So
NASDAQ's up almost 9% right now.
join the conversation. Joingml.com. Visit the links in the show notes to support the sponsors that support this show. If you do that, we really appreciate it because that's
good.
That's one way that we're able to keep this show made in America.
Mm-hmm.
You got to support these folks.
Listen to the ads in the show.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
it's annoying. I don't
Yeah.
know what the ads are. We didn't pick the ads, but listen to them.
Well, the ones we read, we picked those.
Well, those.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about those other ones.
yeah.
AT&T pops in, or like all of a sudden Ryan Reynolds is talking about some kind of wireless company that he's got or whatever.
Yep.
Just listen to those ads.
Even though I hate Ryan Reynolds.
We get paid every single time you guys listen to one of those ads. A certain
30
certain
seconds.
percentage of it.
What is 30 seconds of your life?
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah. Do all those things or don't, but I don't really care. Nate does. And if you do, we'll be back again tomorrow. Hope you have a good day and a good